And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
Mega stars from Empire, American Horror Story, Training Day, even Capital One do an incredible audio version of the Bible. Powerful stuff. Check that one out. Some Indaba and Converse rubber tracks fun headed your way. Dave goes into the vault for an ITL. Fire up the jalopy, put it in gear. You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Yay. It's going to be one of those days.
Well, whenever we call our show a jalopy, we've got stuff to prove, don't we?
Yeah, that's true.
How are you, man?
Rat ride.
Yeah, exactly. How are you?
Hey, guys, thanks for coming by. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
You're ebullient today.
Ebullient, very good word. Mic drop. Show's over. Good night. Peace. That's very good. Well, should I take my ebullient self and get it going?
Yeah, those mellifluous dulcet tones.
Wow, you are on a roll. You've had some sleep or something.
I took a useless vocabulary course in college. I'm trying to get a few dollars worth because everything else I learned is obsolete now.
I thought you were going to say you took a Viagra, but
No,
okay.
I'm Spanish.
Oh, Spanish people don't need that, huh?
No, we got to fly.
Oh, how do you say Viagra in Spanish?
Spanish fly.
Okay, cool. Now that the show's completely off the rails, shall we bring it back?
And Buster's going to kill us. Buster's got to walk out after
The day
this.
we do Jesus, we really go down the toilet.
Well,
How about we start?
please,
Okay,
Lord.
let's do that. Welcome, everybody. Great to be with you. Hope you had a great week in audio. Your likes and subscribe shows your power and contribution to the show. We certainly appreciate it. Big thanks from Dave and I.
Yeah.
And these fine folks are partners. They are Vintage King, the Blackbird Academy, Audio Technica, Avid, Isotope, the Fab Factory, Aftermaster and the Recording Connection, and our boy in DC, Ron Dixon, Studio 202 DC. Can we take a moment for a point of personal pride for Dave and I and the Pensado team? You want to tell them about the call we had last week?
Man, you guys aren't going to believe this. Think of the biggest corporation ever on earth. Not necessarily Apple all the time. It's neck and neck between Apple and Google, now called Alphabet. Mm-hmm. They reached out to Herb and I and want us to come down and hang out with them.
Pretty crazy.
It's a Google hang.
So last year's Pensado Awards, a guy comes backstage. Apparently he's driven down from Google, blown away at the awards. Said he wanted us to come up and give a talk. We didn't hear back for a minute. We talked to him last Friday. Not only do they want us to come up and give a talk, they want us to do it early because New York wants to be tied in. Then they said, if you'll let us tape it, we'd like to do it around the globe for all the Google offices. And then can you stay all day and meet our creative community and meet YouTube and meet Play? Whoa.
Herb and I have been on this earth a long time, and this didn't happen until we had you guys hanging out with us.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to represent you guys well at this thing. It's we'll all go together.
That's a great point. That is because of your support of this. And it's one of those moments where a lot of things have happened to us because of this show, where Dave and I called each other and went, did that just happen? Now we have to sort of figure out how to be brilliant, so we got to go someplace and work on stuff, right?
Yeah. You as a mix engineer, you tend to work alone. I love it when people come by, and then we do the show with about 20 people here. But you forget that there's millions. You don't forget, but you're just not always aware that the whole world knows about this show. Thanks to you guys here again.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's surprising. I don't think we'll ever lose that feeling. I sure hope we don't.
Nah, and it's because of you, so we thank you. But also, let me just make a quick point. What they describe for us are the number of people who are musicians or audio professionals or audio enthusiasts that are heavily involved in Silicon Valley. Apparently, we're very popular up there. That means that your skills, as you hear Dave and I talk about all the time, are transported, they're portable, you can put them in different environments. Your lens is very wide. So if Silicon Valley wants us to come up, they may want to hire you and we want you to get paid. We are tremendously in awe, humbled by the request. We give you all the power, and it gets better. Next week, next Monday, I've got to head up to Facebook because one of the guys there, well, look at us. They're not having me. They're having me because I'm part of Pensado's place, not because I'm Herb Trolley. One of my guys' sons is on the diversity team there, and they're having an event. So I get to meet Mark Zuckerberg. I get to meet their chief technology officer. They want us to meet the head of visual media and a whole bunch more. So the idea that we get to go up and represent the audio community in Silicon Valley, testament to the show, testament to what you guys helped us create, testament to the sponsors, and testament to your Rusty.
Well, rumor has it you're going up there, you're going to fix all the stuff that's wrong with those two companies.
Well, I'm going to do it on the weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just Saturday.
That's what we do.
It's a Saturday assignment, so I'll get that done.
That's amazing, though, man. That's
pretty good
amazing.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
Real good stuff.
Proud of you, man. And proud of the Pensado team. It's not just us, it's everybody in the family, so thank you for that. Good stuff for you in 2 weeks. We're going to launch a mixing contest for you with Indaba and with Converse Rubber Tracks. A very cool thing they're doing. They've got studios in Brooklyn and in Boston and in Sao Paulo and all kinds of stuff. So we're going to attach some super cool prizes to that. I talked to my Westlake Pro boys today. They said they're going to hook you up. Details forthcoming. Stay tuned. Should we introduce him? Oh, God. I think so. Let's meet the hairy, hustling Hungarian historian who goes by the name of Chongor.
Oh, every week.
That's you, buddy. That's you. How about that?
Man, I love it.
Yeah, because I'm running out of H's. Like I'm in the dictionary now, coming up with stuff. Hieroglyphics. I could use that. There's the herpetologist. That's a snake thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's applicable. Hip hop is not. Hip hop, hot and horny or not. But anyways.
I've used the FCC allows me 3 a show. I've already used my 3, so I can't say anything
cool.
else.
All
I'll
right,
tell you after the show.
And this is a Jesus show.
That's true. That's true.
What was interesting, Chongor, is we were going through assets earlier, and you saw kind of the power of what our guest is going to talk about. Chongor's first reaction as a 22-year-old out of school a year was, I need to get a copy of this and watch it. It's pretty powerful, huh?
Oh, completely powerful. I mean, it blew me away.
Yeah. No, this is a labor of love, and it's going to be interesting. So we got good questions for folks?
Really great questions.
All right,
really great
cool.
ones.
Then, shoot, let's get to it. Cool guest today, huh? Mm-hmm. Really proud of this project.
Yeah.
These people are close to both you and I.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Why don't we, you've been in the vaults at Groove 3. Did you find something?
Yeah, I've been brushing up on Ableton live lately on Groove 3, but it's that kind of place where you see what you're looking for, and then you see something you didn't know you were looking for. And anyway, stumbled across a thing where we get to watch a video game where they make a rocket sound from scratch. It's really, really cool.
Oh,
Check
cool.
it out.
Let's run it.
In this video, we're going to work on the big robot mech's missile launch sound. As you can see in this gameplay footage, when our hero gets close to the big mech, he attacks us with a barrage of missiles. Now we're using the explosion sound included with the game, but what we still need is a sound of the missile itself. So let's jump over to Pro Tools and get started. Okay, so here I am in Pro Tools, and I've got a really simple session here with just one track. The first thing we're going to do is use the Signal Generator plugin to generate some white noise to use as the basic element for our sound. So I'm going to set the waveform to white noise and bring the level up a bit. Then I'll select about 5 seconds on my track and click Render in the plugin. And then we can get rid of the plugin window. So I'm going to turn my volume down just a little bit. And I'm going to trim this clip a little bit shorter because I know I want the missile sound to just be a couple seconds long. Then I'll zoom toggle and add a small fade at the beginning and a much longer fade at the end. So that's sounding pretty good as a basic element, but we can definitely use some plugins to make it more interesting. First, I'll add the air frequency shifter to emulate a Doppler effect. And we'll choose a preset to start. An infinite downward spiral should probably work pretty well. Okay, so that's already sounding pretty good. But let's add some delay to give it a little more character. Let's check out the spaced preset. That sounds pretty good. Let's try setting a really short delay time, like 50 milliseconds. And we'll turn up the feedback a bit as well. And then I'll adjust the wet-dry mix to be a bit more dry. Okay, so that sounded pretty good. Let's go ahead and add some low-frequency rumble. First, I'm going to right-click on the track name and select Duplicate. And I'll make a duplicate of this track without the inserts. Then I'll use an Audio Suite pitch shift plugin to drop the lower clip down 2 octaves. And then I'll insert a 1-band EQ, set it to a low pass, and bring it down so that we're just getting the bass. And I'll go ahead and insert a limiter on that track to get it as loud as possible without clipping. And now we're ready to bounce this out and try it in the game. Don't forget to create a master fader track and add a dither plugin before you convert the files to 16-bit. And don't forget to name the file with the correct name, which is weapon-mech-missile.01. And it's important to note that this sound is going to be a little bit different each time you play it. So what I would recommend is bouncing out several different copies of it and then choosing the one you like best. Okay, so now we're back in Unity, and I've already replaced the placeholder mech missile sound with the sound I just created in Pro Tools. And we can take a listen to that here. Okay, so let's take a listen to it in the game. So as you can hear, it's a lot more subtle than you might have thought. And when combined with the explosion sound, we've got the complete sound design for the mech missiles. And that wraps up our weapon sounds. Next, we'll take a look at footsteps.
Imagine these names. I'll just go first names. We don't have to go last names. Denzel, Samuel, Angela, Common, Blair, Idris, Taraji, and on and on and on. We're involved in this incredible project, an audio version of the Bible. Our guest is a dear friend, and just on the side, he happened to co-produce and write the theme of Bill Maher's weekly series as well, too. Yeah, with Shivani.
Our boy.
An incredibly talented guy, the co-executive producer of Inspired by the Bible Experience, Lou Buster Brown.
Hey guys.
What up, man?
Oh man, it's such a pleasure,
How
Dave.
are you?
Oh my God, it's been so long.
Long time coming,
Long time
right?
coming, man.
It's like a family reunion.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where's the barbecue?
Absolutely. Oh, it's coming. It's in the waiting
All
room.
right, good.
So, our buddy Kyle, who's his partner, who you know well and has come, he actually brought a class from Ohio University where he's on the board and an alumni of.
That's fun.
We've known each other for a long time, and when this project came out, I heard it before I knew about it and was stunned at the scope and power of just the way they did what they did, but the notion of, I think if this is correct, it started out, you guys targeted a certain number of celebrities, and then it turned into like over 400 people involved.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
We had an idea, and the idea, actually it was Kyle's idea first. And the idea was, could we bring the evangelical experience to life? The Bible has always been talking heads and boring, and people have not really gravitated toward it because it's almost like if I raised you on steak and then tried to feed you hot dogs.
That's not the same.
Yeah. So the idea was the experience that people were listening was not common. So Kyle had this idea, hey, what if we brought the Sunday morning experience to an audio format of the Bible?
Brilliant.
And so collectively, myself, Kyle, Robbie Reed, Ron Belk, we came together and we scripted the entire Bible. And the goal was to get 30 noteworthy Hollywood celebrities. And then to finish it out with, kind
Other
of
folks.
voiceover talent,
Sure,
you know what I mean?
right.
And the first 3 people that signed on to the project was Denzel Washington,
Started pretty low.
Angela Bassett,
Duh.
and Blair Underwood.
You're kidding.
And
Right
when
from the
those
top.
when those 3 signed on, the phone started ringing, and literally within a matter of a couple of weeks, we were saying, hey, we already have our cast. And he's like, if you do this and I'm not
Right.
on it, you're going to have a lifetime problem
Well,
with me.
see, that's what
And
Kyle
it became a
took-
movement.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
And what I found in knowing you guys is that people got to the point where they're going to be pissed if they weren't involved.
And that's exactly what happened.
And it was somewhere between, I thought.
It's a Bible thing.
Right. Oh, gotcha. Sorry. Oh. People were going to be upset if they.
There's a lot of people upset in the Bible, by the way.
They were. That's what I thought. Jesus had to smite a few people.
Jesus was even upset.
Jesus was a
couple
warrior.
times.
So, but what was fascinating to me was the commitment seemed to be not just the exercise, but also a chance for them to extend their spirituality. Am I close there?
Yes, I mean, these people all have a constitution of faith, and they work in everyday jobs. They just happen to be high profile platforms that they're working in.
Right.
Whether that's sports or the Hollywood space or clergy or wherever. But this is the highest of the high, of people's career paths. And they have these constitutions, but yet there's nowhere for them to really express that part of themselves. And so I think they were all waiting for, a project that would give, their gift the proper setting to present their faith. And we brought production value, high level production value.
That's what blew us away
Yeah.
because when we started talking about it, between the sound design,
Yes.
scoring,
Yeah.
the notion that all these people who some were trained, a bunch were actors,
Yes.
but vocal production and getting that across, that's a different gear. for a lot of people.
Incredibly different gear.
And then you had a bunch of musicians as well too, artists, right? What musical
Absolutely.
artists were on it?
Oh, wow. Common, Anthony Hamilton, Kirk Franklin, Nancy Wilson.
Wow. Crazy.
Just on and on. Yolanda Adams.
Right. Kirk Franklin was
Yes,
here?
Kirk Franklin, Donnie McClurkin. I'm trying to think of some other even,
Who does Kirk play? I was surprised when I read who he played.
Curtis Peter, which is
Peter,
perfect for him
yeah.
because Peter was a renegade.
That's
And
Kirk.
Kurt is a little bit of a renegade.
I hate doing this, but because these are numbers, but you got 23 Grammy winners,
Yes,
8 Emmy winners,
yes.
5 Golden Globe winners,
Yeah.
and 3 Oscar winners in the
Yeah.
cast.
And that was when we released it. But since release, which was in 07, now we have, that number is probably doubled.
Really?
Because, people like, we've had emerging artists
Right.
that have come to the
that's
fore
right, that's
since
right.
then, so you have people like Taraji now you got Tyrese, who's
Right.
another singer,
That's
who
right.
is now, a big box office in
Absolutely.
the movies. And, it's just been an amazing, first of all, it was a labor of love. And it was a huge commitment, a year of time to take in. And I don't think people might not have the full scope. When we say sound design and sound effects and music, we did 30 minutes of original cinematic score with the Prague Symphony Orchestra.
What?
We did,
Did he say Prague?
yeah,
Prague Philharmonic.
yeah.
Wow.
The Bible is over 90 hours of content linear from Genesis to Revelations. It's fully populated with sound design top to bottom.
Wow.
And that's not just a brook.
Right.
It's 100 crickets
Right.
when there's crickets at night.
Right.
It's 100 different crickets, and our technical attention to detail was our Pro Tools sessions probably look like 250 tracks.
Wow.
In fact, Pro Tools really wasn't capable of
Handling it.
what we were doing at the time. It was
Did you oversee that part, the
I
audio
did.
part of it?
I did.
So, God, when you think about it, from just the vocal production of all this greatness, that's one whole thing. And then all the other stuff and having that come together seamlessly, you had to work your behind off, I could imagine.
Yes, and I got to give a lot of credits on the vocal side and the directing to Chip Hurd, who was amazing. Kim Fields' mom,
Fields'
who has
mother.
been a Hollywood staple
Staple
in
as a
terms of,
teacher.
you know, kind of coaching. And she's
Absolutely.
done everybody from Steve Harvey to, you know, to Miley Cyrus. So she's
Absolutely.
just been amazing. And of course, Kim's career has been prolific on that level.
Yep.
But she brought an amazing, I don't know, she just brought something very unique, and the energy was so special that the production was put together an individual at a time. So even though it's a dynamic convergence, each person actually performed separately
By themselves.
by themselves.
Wow.
So what we would have to do is we would have to actually go in the studio and we'd have to take 3 different juxtapositions on a statement. And then as I assembled it, I'd had to make the choices as to,
So you literally were comping.
oh my God.
That's good, wasn't it, DP?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good, man.
yeah.
Give me, thank you, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, to the 10th power.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you get all these different takes, so you have choices on how to put it
Actually, that
together.
is good. Just dawned on me.
Pretty good, right?
I was off in the clouds somewhere just then. Sorry, I'm back.
No. Because what I'm trying to put my head around, and particularly for our audience, is one, you know, we always preach that there's actually you can confirm if this is true or not. The skills that you have to have in the audio space
Yes.
are applicable so
Oh my
many
God.
places, particularly today. You can go from hearing aid to crime, from music to photography.
Herb, let me just say this. Music is probably the single most relevant media source that we have.
Yeah.
It's the most powerful media
Yes, it is.
discipline in the world. A song will cut straight through to your
To your
heart,
heart.
to your soul.
Every time.
It doesn't stop at your head. So music is that powerful too. But here's what I'm thankful for. Starting my multimedia career with music as the foundation was so relevant because when I think, Dave, when I think about, and I'm doing a lot of television and film projects now, so when I think about a microphone to the talent, it's the same way I think about the lens on a camera
Sure.
to the talent.
Absolutely.
When I approach directing, I approach that the same way that I directed
Absolutely.
producing.
Absolutely.
When I think about shot composition, I think about the same discipline that goes into arrangement, and especially from a mix level. Where does the drum sit in the track? Where's the guitar sitting over here to the left? So it's such a relevant media toolbox from which you can spin off everything.
You have always made the correlation between photography, visuals, and other things, and audio.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, I believe that 100%.
As a philosophy and as a practical way of
Yeah,
doing
I
things.
think we see how we hear, how we feel, how we smell. All the senses report to the brain differently, but once it gets to the brain, I'm simplifying the process. The essential algorithms are the same. I mean, nature is very efficient.
Let me simplify it the way God showed it to me. Sound is a place. Now that's a whole different way to look at it.
Absolutely.
Sound is a place. So if I come in here and I push record and I push play on that DVD or on that CD or that MP3 and you hear the waves crashing, you call it the beach. Sound is a place. If you hear a carousel, you don't call that the carousel. You call that the circus or the park or
Merry-go-round
you
or
understand
something.
the merry-go. So you know it's a place. And so when we homogenize through our senses, all of the senses, to come up with some resolve about what is it that we're actually experiencing.
Which is exactly the predicate to virtual reality.
Exactly.
When you put those things on, first time we did it, it's hilarious. So, you know, we're Pensado's place, and they have us at this big thing, and all these people, and we walk in, we're Pensado's place. They put some Oculus, whatever on my
Rift,
head,
yeah, Oculus Rift.
and I literally was holding on to the table.
Yeah.
Because I had
It's
vertigo.
disoriented.
And so, you know, they were like, look over your shoulder at the fireplace. I would like to do that. And so between the audio that was going in my ears
Right.
and what I was seeing and the imaging that was sending to my brains, I was transported to another place. They had me walk up to the edge of a cliff.
Right.
And I was like backing up, like I
Right.
was going to. But what's fascinating about that is that 10 years ago in 2007,
Yeah.
You don't have all that.
Yeah.
You got actors
Right.
and music and
Yeah.
underscore
Yeah.
to bring, arguably, not even arguably, the most important book to life in a way that had never been done before.
2007 Audio Award for the Audio Book of the Year. Not in Christian, not in Gospel, the Audio Book of the Year. It
No
beat out
joke.
Harry Potter, everything. This is probably
that's pretty
the
heavy.
most
It's the largest
incredible
selling,
audio
audiobook.
book ever produced.
Wow.
And here's an interesting thing.
Wow.
When we released it, Audibles and iTunes was not even capable of distributing it with a stereo feed.
Really?
We had done it in 5.1, and they said, well, we have to put it in mono, and we said you can't put it up until we at least can give it to the audience in stereo.
Wow.
Because we built an immersive product.
Sure.
We call it
Exactly.
theater of the mind and spirit. So
Right.
when you dream at night, you don't question whether it was real. You just wake up and tell the story.
Right, right, right.
So this is the same way that we were trying to really, like, let's jump over the lily pad of logic and let's get right into the senses of the heart and the soul. And let's communicate through the intuition that we all kind of have, that we learn how to shut off a piece at a time when people tell us, you know, girl, I knew you was gonna call. What you doing?
Right.
Yeah, you did.
Right.
Because we have that antenna as human beings. We're so sophisticated and we see technology moving fast and furious, and yet we don't realize that the most sensitive and most advanced technology is us.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you find fascinating? I want you to. The technical side of it? What did you notice?
The thing that fascinated me was, and by the way, some people find this the least fascinating part of the whole process. You know what I'm talking about, right? The sound effects.
Yes.
I thought that actually made the entire thing come to life.
Yes.
No question.
There's a few people that don't like the sound effects. I guess they're wrong, because as Buster said, it makes it an immersive experience when you combine the realism of all the little sound effect things. And to me, I found that the most fascinating and the most enjoyable was, and it enhanced the experience by having some of those.
Because you're storytelling.
Those little,
And we felt that a generation of people was not picking up the Bible to read it.
Right.
We're moving in technology at light speed, and so they're on iPads, they're on their cell phones, and so we said, well, why don't we meet them where they are? And so our target was to meet people who were not picking up written words anymore.
I think that decision was the most important decision.
But guess what we found out in the process? That it spoke to Big Mama who used to listen to radio theater, and it spoke to little kids because parents play it in the car while they're taking their kids to school, and the kids, mommy, the dog, and they hear things and they're listening and they're sensitive to what's going on. So it's a powerful. In fact, you know what's interesting? And we work in audio, and that's one of the most powerful mediums because video, as soon as you put video in front of people, you shut off imagination. So you're short-circuiting one of the most powerful things that we have to push us forward, which is imagination.
There's no question about it.
And so what we're doing, we're stimulating to say, let's stimulate the imagination instead of trying to tell people, you know, if I said, hey, everybody in this room gets a house, you're happy until I tell you it's a Cape Cod in Vermont.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So when we define it, it loses value. But we have to work with, you know, media is a tool. So I think all of these tools, if we use them, and you talked about virtual, and we're doing things now with virtual, because we believe that experience is more effective than even a linear learning process. If you're gonna fly in my Navy, you gotta master that simulator first.
Right, there's no question.
So I want you to experience the crash before you die crashing.
Absolutely. Particularly if you're flying my plane.
There you go, $1 billion, right?
Right. Well, to that point, what's interesting is our DC partner, Ron Dixon, I picked him up last year. I think we were doing Pensado Awards, the second one. So he walks out, and I thought he got like a Mac computer, like he's carrying a little box, you know how they come. And he puts in the back seat, and I was like, oh man, you bought a new laptop? He was like, no, that's my drone. And I said, what? That's your drone? And he said, yeah, and it has a flight simulator in it. So before you ever fly, you literally can to a mile away or so,
Yeah.
That's
absolutely
so
get the right.
cool.
But I think the broader
I
point.
got 2 of
Is that
them.
right?
I got 2 drones.
So the broader point is that when you take the technology available to us, to
Yes.
all of us, and then, but I find what's interesting you did is that you applied it back in 2007, sort of in analog ways.
Yes.
Where the notion is, how do I make that experience stuff,
Yes.
not replace it,
Correct.
but enhance it,
Yes.
and make it available to people. Half of our audience, as an example, listens to the show on iTunes.
Right.
And those numbers don't show. YouTube number shows. And
Right.
so when I'm doing marketing stuff, and I say, well, here's our numbers, they go, well, it only shows this much. I said, because half the people listen to us,
Right.
as opposed
Actually, iTunes is a little more actually.
as opposed to necessarily watch. So how did you make decisions about engineers and stuff to bring into the process to do the sound design? Did they need to have that background?
Well, interesting. I did a lot of the work.
Did you really?
I did a lot of the work in the sound design space.
Had you had experience in sound design before that?
Interesting. My background, I was born in Detroit.
Right.
Imagine a 5-year-old boy going to Hitsville with his other cousins, and
Who was your uncle?
my uncle's Norman Whitfield, who
Hello.
was a prolific writer and
Hold on,
producer
hold
for Motown.
Heard it through the grapevine.
on
Yeah,
now.
Psychedelic Shack, Cloud Nine,
Come on, man.
Papa was a Rolling
Papa was
Stone.
rolling, Just My Imagination.
Major.
Yeah.
Major.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So what was interesting was as I was moving into my career space, I found myself leaning on those experiences almost by osmosis. You know what I mean? That when you listen to a Papa Was a Rolling Stone or a Runaway Child, those songs are visual. And so there was always like this whole visual scene set before. Yeah, it was the 3rd of September.
Absolutely.
Didn't happen
Or
before
just
you
enough
had
Stevie,
all of the.
just enough for the city. That's
Yeah,
a
just
visual
enough for the
song. That's
city.
really
These
visual.
are,
And what you
what's
heard,
going on, Marvin
and what
Gaye?
you heard was sound design. Those things you'd hear
Sound
sirens
design.
and horns honking and stuff like right.
Exactly. So I leaned on that.
I'm all excited.
And yeah, our first phase of this project, we worked with Technicolor, and we leaned on their experience with regard to sound design for movies.
Okay.
And we absolutely deferred to their expertise, but we made sure that we kept our hands on the steering wheel because the overall, yeah.
Yep.
And so so that's kind of how we actually built it out.
Which comes first, the sound design or the scene? Do you add the sound design after the actors act, or do they hear the sound design in their headphones?
They heard nothing. They heard nothing. They had no reference as to how it was going to be built, what the environment was going, what if there was going to be
guess
music.
they call that acting, huh?
They had no idea.
Wow.
And that's why we had to do so much extra work, because the way that the scene would be played
Right.
had to be by choice of the energy in that scene
Right,
as
right.
it was built out.
Right.
So if I built it out with an energy of anxiety or an energy of love, then I had to play the soft version or the harder version.
Exactly.
So it was a very
That's
complicated.
laborious, man.
Oh my God, it was a very
How long did
complicated.
it take from the idea to completion?
2 years from the idea to completion.
That's with
It
that
was-
many people.
It was
that's
18
amazing.
months of really, hardcore in the studio work.
And so you capture it, you get the stuff, you're gonna figure out your comps, you
Yeah.
put in your sound design,
Yeah.
and then does the scoring come after that?
The scoring we did alongside. So we were working
Wow.
conjunctive, in a conjunctive mode, and I worked with an amazing LA composer. His name is Kaveh Cohen, who I knew from back in the day in the music business, and he's an amazing composer. And we collectively came up with 30 minutes of original score that is mind-blowing.
Wow.
I mean, when I say it when you think about Dave, when you think about the power of music versus language, you know what I mean? Like words are crude. They don't really tell the story. If I come up, hey Herb, what's going on, man?
Right.
I love you, man.
Right, right,
Been a
right,
long
right,
time.
right.
That doesn't mean I don't love you the same way that I
Right.
would say that to
Last
to
dude
my
that
son.
did that stabbed me.
You know? Exactly. Exactly. But music has a more specific way and proprietary way of dealing with the emotional part. And so as we painted the picture with that music, I can literally put the movements on and I can tell you what that movement is describing in terms of what the beats of the Bible are.
Let me see you one and raise you one.
Okay.
When you were marketing, you and Kyle
Yes.
and the team were marketing this, and you were utilizing churches to do that, which is obvious and smart. I remember the trailer. There were parts of the trailer
Yes.
that were so moving
Yeah.
that I knew that if I played this at a certain time for a certain person, unless they just had hearts of stone,
Yeah.
they were going to cry.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes it was Blair as Jesus.
That is it.
Man, let
That
me tell
is
you
it.
something. I took it over to our attorney's house on a Sunday morning, Virgil Roberts, and one of our attorneys. We have several. And we're sitting there getting ready to watch an NBA game.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, oh, by the way, you should know about this. And I will tell you that in 30 seconds of playing that, his wife was crying. Virgil was trying to man up and not cry, which was hilarious. He's like, yeah, that's very good. But the power of it was, in my view, a combination of the acting,
Yeah.
the audio
Yes.
of that,
Yes.
because they were just listening to it.
Yeah.
I was just playing it. And then the sound design
Yeah,
around it that
yeah.
made that emotional exchange
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
And when I stepped back from it, and I think we had started Pensado's Place, it just reminded me of the juice
Yes.
that these guys have, and
Yeah.
you have, and
Yeah.
the crowd that I get to work in. That is, it has no limit in terms of its power. It's just how you apply it and how you think outside the box.
Well, there is a craft, Dave,
Yeah.
and I know you can speak to that. Like there's and I tell guys that I mentor all the time, from a songwriting perspective, if you want to be a songwriter, a great songwriter, you got to get up and write every day.
Right.
Now, every day you get up and write, that's the craft.
Right.
In between those days, you'll have moments of inspiration where everything comes together,
Right.
and it's a magical experience.
Right.
But that's not every day.
Right.
So you have to raise the standard of the craft to the level that it's above the normal standard. And then when the inspired moments come,
Yep.
then you end up with a Pharrell Happy, or you end up with a Adele, Hello. That's what happens when the inspiration comes together.
Tell us a couple of your big records so they'll know who you are.
Well, interesting enough, my partner is Shivani, and under Buster and Shivani as a brand, we kind of accidentally made a pretty big mark in gospel and inspirational music.
Yes, you
And
did.
we produced records for Kirk Franklin and the Family, and God's Property, which is the all-time biggest selling gospel project, over 3 million.
Wow.
Stomp, a lot of people will know that record, Stomp.
That's one of my
Was that you
favorites.
guys' record?
Yes.
You know
And
how much I've stomped to
yes,
stomp?
yeah, a lot of people have stomped to Stomp.
I'm gonna go home and play Stomp again.
Yes.
That Stomp is
Yes.
smoking.
EP, can you hit me?
Yeah, exactly. And Prince of Egypt soundtrack
Wow.
was amazing.
Yep.
Yolanda Adams, just so many.
Brian on Prince of Egypt?
Brian was. That's
Absolutely.
where you and I met.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
you were managing
Gerald-
Brian at
Gerald
that time,
hooked us
and
up.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. So
Absolutely.
thanks for that
Didn't you
one.
do some stuff with Hall & Oates?
We did do some stuff with Hall &
Yeah,
Oates.
big record with them.
We did some stuff actually with Daryl Hall in his solo project, and a couple of pretty big records.
And you have this weekly thing that happens about every week for the last how many years?
10 years now.
Wow.
10 years. Bill Maher theme song for Bill Maher. Yeah. Yeah, Bill is an interesting guy. Like, Bill wanted something that was edgy.
Yeah.
And we all know Bill from,
Yes.
politically incorrect. And
And he loves black women.
yeah, and he loves the culture.
He does.
He really loves that
He does.
culture.
He
And so
It's
he was
interesting
like,
that if somebody with your faith would do a theme song for a heathen.
yeah, well, I think that what I learned in the process of
Sorry, Bill.
of this journey that I'm on is that I need sheep and goat. So I'm not discriminating. They both get milk.
They all can be saved.
That's right. And the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. So we don't discriminate because we need
He'd
money,
probably
and
take
it's a
that as
tool.
a compliment. We're okay.
well,
No,
you
Bill
would,
is a
actually.
good guy,
Yeah, he is.
And the one thing I love about Bill, and I watch his show as much as I can, pretty much every week, is that it's provocative, and we gotta keep thinking for ourselves.
Absolutely.
I wanna compel you to think, not in a group think way, but what do I feel about what he just said?
Well, you know what's interesting? If you take that to your project, to Inspired by the Bible Experience, and take it to in our audience perspective, not only will, if you listen to it, it'll make you think just about your spirituality, it'll make you think about your craft.
That's right.
When you go, oh, wow, I wouldn't have never thought about this particular project and my gifts I can bring this to, because it challenges. I was in the studio with Mixed by Ali the other day, and he had a rapper from Detroit, and it was full on rap scenario. Like it was Hennessy and blunts, and I'm OG, and we're hanging, and then, a couple of guys who recognize me from the show and stuff. So I'm gonna hang with the youngsters, right? And I'm about an hour in, trying to stay away. It's just, I'm not touching anything, but you don't have to, because it's just all in the room.
Exactly.
And watching Ali mix is like watching an aggressive basketball player. It's like watching Russell Westbrook go to the hole. He mixes and he's decisive and he's making moves, and so I sort of like watching him. And you came up, and I was, they had so much respect for you, and I was trying to define for them how you took this disciplined approach. You were sort of a fish out of water thrown into a hip hop thing. You didn't change for that. You brought Dave to it, and been hot for 30 years from there. And they were just like in awe. The point being that you took your skills, took an environment that you didn't necessarily fit, and said, no, I'll make it my own. And in making it your own, you stood and did something in the audio standpoint that's really been a career, man. And that's pretty amazing that we have those tools.
Let's keep talking about that.
No, keep talking about you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you did that with your hair as well, too. There's a whole...
You know what, the Herb is interesting, because
I like this part
on
of
the
the
Prince
show.
of Egypt, when we were producing the Prince of Egypt, and we executive produced the Prince of Egypt soundtrack, it was an interesting experience, because we were working directly with Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was a mentor in my life, and he was an amazing mentor, but he pointed out to us that, like, okay, I know you the gospel guys, but this is not the Christian story. And I'm like, huh? He's like, no, this story belongs to the Christians, the Jews, and the Muslims. And so the Moses story belongs to all three faiths.
Wow.
It's the New Testament where we separate in opinion, but the Old Testament is common to all three faiths.
Amazing.
So what I had to learn was that excellence makes room for itself. And so rather than to get on the club,
Wait a minute. Say it again.
I think
That's too
excellence
deep.
excellence makes room for itself, meaning that
I love that.
there's if we have to be a part of a club to define our excellence, it's not really excellence.
Nah, that's right.
So coming into the environment whereby, and let me give an example that I think people will relate to. Martin Luther King was a civil rights leader. No, he wasn't. He was a pastor.
Right.
He was a preacher.
Right.
But his excellence made room for him in all formats, in any platform that he moved into, because the excellence is what pushed him and defined him. So we wanted to, let me make it me. I always want to make the standard of excellence the benchmark of success for my projects.
No question.
Not Christian, not God. In fact, you can call me a gospel producer. I never signed up for that.
Right.
I'll answer to it.
Right.
But it doesn't define me.
No question.
I'm a multimedia producer.
No question.
And excellence is really the goal. Because once you hit that mark of excellence, it speaks to the world.
The great mixers that I've watched, Dave included, Dave is one of the, and Ali and I were talking about this, they mix for themselves.
Yeah.
And it's going to be perfect when they're satisfied.
Yeah.
Like, there's one thing about the client being satisfied, and I tell clients of ours all the time, just go till Dave's happy. Because 99% of the time when he's happy, you're going to be happy just because of his internal bar. And I think that you have to have that internal, and you accuse me of the same thing. I know all the books that I follow, which is important for the audience in my view.
Well, let me share some of them. I'm amazed at and this is a love fest, hold on, we'll be back to you in a moment, but the detail and the effort that he puts into things that nobody ever sees for our live events and for the show is the equivalent of mixing one
really the
hi-hat
same.
little part. Yeah,
It's really the same.
I love that saying, man, excellence defines itself.
Yeah. And to our audience, which they can take, so one, you should get the Bible experience and just absorb both on the sort of macro level in terms of the scale of it, and then dig down into the sort of audio technique and work that's been done there. I think that's a phenomenal exercise for you. But the other side of it is recognize that it's up to you to set your own internal bar. You don't have to compromise it. It's one thing you can control. You can control your energy. You can control your commitment.
Yes.
You're not going to be affected by your discipline. You can control your discipline. So take the things you can control, and then you do something with it. You don't have to complain about other stuff because you
That's
can
right.
make it happen. And trust me when I tell you, there was 3 weeks ago, the folks were sitting at this desk. There were 3 of us sitting here, including him, and 2 of the 3 people were homeless. Dave's been homeless. And the idea of how you pull yourself back together and get up there and climb that mountain is up to you. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying be heroic. It's hard.
Yeah.
But you got to take the stuff you can control.
Yeah.
And now you've got technology and other stuff. We weren't TV hosts.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but necessity is the mother of invention,
Oh, are you
right?
kidding?
So the fact that you
And
saw
I'm
there was a
necessary,
hole.
so I got to invent it.
Yeah. We see holes, and if we fill those holes, normally when we identify the hole, it's because we have something that is incongruent with what we see.
Absolutely.
And so just bringing what we have to the table, bring what you have to the party. I'm not a guy who's beating people over the head with religion.
Right.
That's not my game. That's
Right.
not what I'm about. I'm about this. I'm about, let me just put something in front of you for your consideration. And you look at it.
You make your own
Yeah,
decision.
because you know what? Because I believe in humanity. I think humanity is brilliant. I think they have, the best of intentions. And so I just say, let's put this in front of you as a proposition. Hey, consider this.
Your call.
It's your call.
Your
That's
call.
right.
And we have a show where ebullient and incongruent have been utilized in the same show. That's amazing.
But let me wrap with this on that.
Sure.
Hollywood, because as now I kind of have moved more towards the visual side, the audio visual side, Hollywood has adopted and superimposed the Jesus story on top of everything that they've done for decades.
Star Wars.
Everything.
Absolutely.
E.T., Star Wars,
Yep.
Avatar.
Yep.
There's only one great story. There's only one great story, and that's the Jesus story. And so the Jesus story is the great journey. And then you have the greatest story ever told, which is the Bible. That's the all-time #1 selling best book every year. So while we try to figure out all these new innovative ways to try to, and believe me, I spent a career trying to figure out how to write clever lines and, kind of tell a story in a clever way. And then God said, why don't you just take this and just present that with your gift?
Right. Wow.
Just use your gift with these words and see what happens. And, I got to tell you that I have never been more humbled to be a part of a project than I was with the Bible experience, so it's amazing.
Beyond the philosophical and spiritual stuff we've been talking about, again, the sheer audio scale and breadth of the work. Chongor, you got a couple questions over there for our guests?
Yeah, we do. This first one's from Greg Fine. When you guys were creating the sound design for the Bible experience, did you have to be mindful of sounds that did you have to be mindful of using sounds that were happening in that time period? And did you have to go hunt for sounds that you may not have had access to?
Absolutely. We not only were we mindful of that when we did the sound design, we were also mindful of that in the underscore. So we used a lot of plucked sounds that were, kind of native to that region, harps and kind of mallet-driven instruments like logs. And we did a lot of that. Drums were very, prominent in a lot of the underscore. With regard to sound design, we pulled different sound design of villages in Arab regions and, the marketplaces in Jerusalem.
Sure.
And there's so much. I mean, it's almost like it was a weird experience for me in a sense. Dave and I talked about this, like when we were mixing, like people come in, we get scared because we kind of go into a place when you're mixing and you get in the zone. You go into a place.
Right.
And, with the sound design on this project, like it's so layered. There's so much stuff that's going on, and you become so sensitive to what your environment is.
Right.
I felt like I almost was reverse blind. Does that make sense?
I understand.
Like my senses were very super intense and kind of raw almost because every little thing I could hear, and it's like no, that water's supposed to be over there.
Right. Right.
You
It's
know.
going to detract from the story. It's got to be
Yeah,
supported.
and then I also learned with the Prince of Egypt, like Jeffrey Katzenberg was like, okay, guys, no, we don't want no Burger King, Red Sea parting shower curtains, and we don't want any Moses burger in the baskets. We don't want none of that kind of stuff.
I just had a Moses burger.
We're just gonna do music.
Really?
And that's what he said. We're gonna use music, and so when you take that work,
Wow.
that source content, you got to handle that with a little different kind of,
Absolutely.
sensibility. And so when you're saying, I'm now creating sound design for God in the Garden of Eden.
Ooh,
I mean,
that's a different level.
yeah, you got to think about like,
different level.
I don't want to mess this up.
No, I don't want to mess this up at all. Chongor, give us another one.
This was from Kim Sloan. Were all the voice actors trained, or did you have to coach them through each part? And how did you go about separating 90 hours of content into a workable production schedule?
The workflow was very intensive. Naming constitutions was very important. The process of moving the project down the assembly line was very, very, important to not be blown. I believe that without a process, things fall apart.
Yeah, no question.
So I think you need a process whenever you're doing
structure. Yeah.
projects that are this big.
Yeah.
As far as coaching the actors, yes, even the best actors benefit from a perspective that comes from an overview. And so if you'd be surprised to work with a Denzel versus working with a new actor coming out of school or something like that,
Right.
that Denzel will probably ask you more for what it is that you're
Looking for.
than the
Yeah.
other guy, because he's that zeroed in with nuance. And music is about nuance too, and mixing is about
when we mix,
nuance.
we ask the client, what's your vision, or the producer,
Yeah.
what's your vision?
And then you got to let
interesting.
them do their thing. When we go to mixing engineers, we would go say, guys, here's our demo. Here's what our vision is for the song.
Right.
We'll see you in 6 hours.
Right.
I got a question. Is it okay, Chongor?
Go for it.
What book in the Bible was the hardest to bring to life by with the techniques you were using? I didn't see a lot of numbers in Leviticus in the film, so.
That actually, to be honest with you, we did find ways, and Music Help was very helpful in dealing with books like Leviticus and Numbers, Judges, these books that have this redundant kind of quality to them,
Yeah.
because we used musical motifs to kind of bring people in
Was
and
there
to
one
keep
that
them
stood
engaged.
out though that made it more difficult?
I think the most challenging book was the Book of Revelation,
Oh wow.
and for many reasons, because it has so many different kind
It's
of
heavy.
yeah, and there's a lot of visual language going on in there, and you don't want to overdo it with overtness, but you got to make it pay off. And you almost like when you listen to the Bible Experience, you're almost like in a video game environment.
Right. Right.
So when it starts talking about the beast coming from the
Yeah.
seas with the 7 horns and the 7 crowns, and so you're gonna
They're bringing that to
oh my
life.
God, you'll hear that, you'll see that, and
Wow.
in fact, that book is not for kids because it actually is that.
It's heavy.
Yeah, it's kind of, and you know what? What really helped me with that book? The first time I saw Jurassic Park
Really.
at Universal Studios,
Wow.
and more recently last year when I saw Mad Max.
Yep.
Those 2 movies had the same kind of, we're going to use sound to really push you.
Take another place.
Yeah, you want to push you to a place.
Yeah.
You're going to almost be uncomfortable, but we need you to be on edge like that. And that sound design pushed you to that level, because Jurassic Park is about anxiety and relieving that anxiety.
question. Yeah.
So if you want people to really enjoy your movie from a popcorn perspective, you got to have a big drama that relieves big. So it's a payoff.
Well, you want to do a better response?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I really do. I got one quick question to sneak in on
Okay.
you. Some of the books in the Bible, in fact, the beauty of the Bible is that it can be interpreted by different generations and different sects, and each interpretation usually spawns a new sect.
Yes.
How did you deal with that? Like, did you try to be a bit universal in your interpretations, especially a book like Revelations that
Yeah.
has 3 separate distinct interpretations?
Yeah.
How did you approach that, or just tried to be Buster?
We tried to take a translation that had the most conversational qualities, and that was the NIV, which had a new ideation that had been released called the TNIV, today's New International Version. The NIV has over 350 million Bibles distributed around the world.
Wow.
So it's the #1 distributed Bible. And so translation. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have a translation that gave the most access to the most people. And so it had to have a conversational quality, because the original intent was, well, we'll just get a public domain version and we won't worry about licensing and anything. And you know, by the time you get through the these and the thous, we might as well be doing Shakespeare.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, if you're trained, yeah, you can. But if you're a lay person, and we didn't build this project to reach the people in the church. We built this project to reach people who were not going to church.
Absolutely. Have you had to deal with distributors and other things, this project in different languages?
You know, we've been solicited to have it translated in multiple languages. One of the things that has slowed us in that process in terms of saying yes is because the DNA of what we produced is one of the key components in our DNA is the participation of these voices and names that help build the bridge. Right. And so our considerations is, you know, we're looking at a Spanish version. We would likely bring in Spanish names that, you know, have the same equal power to speak to broader audiences, to be the voices, because that's a part of the DNA that we're really actually, you know, building into the ecosystem.
Right, absolutely. All right, homie, this is your first spiritual batter's box.
Well, I decided to cheat a little bit, and I couldn't think of I couldn't think of a way to do the subject at hand, so I'm going to go back a few decades or two, and we're going to go to his production skills.
All right,
perfect.
As they applied mostly in the film.
Batter's box is up.
Yeah, let's go.
Hit it.
Piano.
Gershwin.
Trumpet.
Miles.
Guitar.
Don Cheadle.
That's a tough one for me. Paul Jackson Jr.
Male vocalist.
Donny Hathaway.
Female vocalist.
Gladys Knight.
I was going to give you a hint. It begins with a Y, but choir.
Edwin Hawkins.
Oh, Happy Day.
Yes.
God, my favorite song. Organ.
Billy Preston.
He's good, Herb. He's good.
That was really good.
Ricky
Don't let the
Grundy.
religious element confuse you.
Ricky Grundy
Okay.
is 1A. Yeah.
Praise and worship.
Patrick Henderson. West Angeles Saints and Praise, Bishop Blake.
My favorite part of church.
That was
Praise
the
and worship.
introduction of praise and worship, and I actually worked on that.
Wow.
The last one. Your favorite record made in the last 5 years.
Whoa.
Man.
Wow, you really, you
I'm gonna leave and go
blindsided me
get
with
something
that
to eat
one.
and come back, because that's a tough one.
5 years? In the last 5 years?
Okay, 5.5.
Let me off the hook. Oh, man.
Well, okay, I'll help you out. Instead of your favorite record, just a record that captured your imagination that you wish you had done.
That's a good one.
That's interesting. I don't wish I had done it, but I think that one of the records that really captivated me was the Dr. Dre Straight Outta Compton soundtrack.
Oh, that's
Very interesting
I was
sonic
thinking
record.
Adele, but you surprised me. Thanks.
No. He there was something real
Sonically.
crazy going on with that record, man.
DP, take us home.
Man, you know, I was just sitting here thinking, when you spoke a moment ago, Herb, you had one of those, hey, Dave, take us home moments already. Buster's had 4 or 5, so I'm going to be brief with this one. I just can't stop thinking about excellence defines itself. And I think one of the things that excellence needs when it defines something is a little bit of conflict, a little bit of hardship. I mean,
gears have to
you
gnash
show me
a
happy
little.
people, and I'll show you people that scare me, and they probably aren't creative. There's something
Yeah.
about creativity that needs a little conflict, needs a little. Hemingway, as great as he was, needed a publisher to kind of push him.
Yeah.
I need you to push me. We all need deadlines. We all need the fruit that, or the soil that creativity grows in. But excellence defines itself. I think that's the headline today.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
See ya.